Indian Adland is no stranger to ad women and men charting their own paths and building companies that have produced legendary ads, taking businesses and brands to great heights. We have a rich history of iconic agencies that started independently and were later acquired by large global organizations. Somewhere along the way, however, they lost their indie spirit and identity. But it seems like the era of the indies is coming back. And despite the obvious market challenges and economic headwinds, some would argue there's never been a better time for the independents to rocket. I want to know what they have that the major networks don't. What are their struggles and where are the big opportunities coming from? And most importantly, how they tell their brand stories in a complex and always-on media age where everyone is scrambling for attention. I have 4 founders with me today: Arun Iyer of Spring Marketing Capital, Fundamentals Pallavi Chakravarti, Ashish Khazanchi of Enormous, and PG Aditiya of Talented Agency. They've led globally networked agencies in the past, and they are here to answer the question, is it really the best time to be independent? And with that, Arun, let me come to you first. I have to ask you this straight up. Answer that question for me. Is it the best time to be independent? And I'll give you a bit of context on where I'm coming from. At the end of 2024, we had a major merger announcement. It's still in the works, Omnicom and IPG. And of course, one of the big sort of key points that came out in all the talk and buzz around it was that given all the complexity and the chaos on the holding company side, this is a fantastic opportunity for independents to really sort of, just accelerate growth and get in there.
I think about it, Delshad, I think it's probably the best time to disrupt. I don't know about necessarily whether it's the best time to be independent or no, but the fact that some of the best talent of the business is wanting to do this independently, which means that there is a problem of them not being able to be disruptive in their roles, which is why they're actually stepping out, branching out and saying, okay, I can unabashedly disrupt. And I think that's what is going on. And I think it's high time, and it's probably the best time to disrupt. Because there is so much of the past that keeps getting discussed. And I think, to be honest, and I have been with the large network agencies, I think to some extent, the Indian offices are seen as outposts that are just cash generating machines. And still the time it's seen that way, I think there will be a talent exodus, and there will be people like here who are fantastically talented, not his company, but but are disrupting in ways that we've not seen before. So, yeah.
It's interesting, and there's a mix, like we discussed earlier, there's a mix of, ages here when it comes to your companies. From the youngest to, Ashish, you and Arun, of course, have been independent now for a while. Ashish, just, this whole sort of disruptiveness, not hanging on to the past and baggage and all of that, are you seeing it the same way?
Even when I was with the networks, I always behaved like I owned the agency. I was...
Write your own rules.
An independent person out there also. I have always believed in doing work which everybody should want to do, which is disrupt stuff, bring about disproportionate kind of an impact to how people are perceiving the brand or that business and stuff. For me, honestly, not all that very much has changed. We wanted to set up a certain kind of a culture. We wanted to make sure, all old school values of how an advertising agency is run, not just in the output of it, in the way the culture exists, continues to exist.
It's always been a very, I don't know if it's best time, worst time, but it's always been very easy to start an ad agency for anyone who wants, because it doesn't take too much capital, right? If you have decent work and if you know a bunch of clients, etc., you can start your own agency tomorrow with very, very little money. So the culture of lots of entrepreneurs is not uncommon to our industry at all. But I think since the last decade, especially since the last 5-6 years, we can see that the larger networks are increasingly, it's tough for them. And I mean, we can say them right now, but we used to say us, we used to say it's tough for us, and now, to Ashish's point from earlier as well, I completely agree. I think those of us who really, like our jobs, whether you're in a network or whether you're independent, you feel it is like your own company. And the tragedy is when you realize the glass ceiling to that belief, right? Like you're like, okay, I am an owner, I am an owner, I am an owner until this point. And then after that iron curtain, is that the right phrase? is we weren't able to cross that. So in our sense, it was pretty much my co-founder Gautam and I think we had a little bit of a Sundar Pichai-esque story. He was account executive, I was copywriter. We spent about a decade, moved up the ranks, and then by the time we got to the top, we kind of realized, wow, we had a lovely team along with us, and we were like, so many ideas we want to do. There's so much we really want to build a place, but it needed the whole system to be a lot more risk-friendly. And you can't expect that from a network that has so much to lose and which is so big, etc. Right? So you need a place without baggage in order to try out a lot of the things, which is why I think independents are also very attractive to clients because we all have a story. We all have a story. Our story is not from 70 years ago where we don't really know how it started and we're the 7th generation in it. Our stories are active conversations, and I think that's really helpful.
You mentioned earlier also you joined Taproot just when it was getting acquired by Dentsu.
Right.
So it was at that absolute massive transitional point for the company. You were with them for a while, and now you've set up Fundamental. This bit about clients coming along and what clients want today. Do you want to maybe address that a little bit? How is it? What are they coming to independence for?
I think it's tied in with your previous question. And I just want to say here that I don't think there's ever a right time. I think anybody who starts out has a threshold when you're working elsewhere, and whatever your triggers are, whenever that threshold is breached, that's when you decide that, okay, I might as well put my money where my mouth is and see whether my way is the right way, because then you're living and dying by your sword. So I think clients do, I think they are cognizant of the fact that there are bigger systems which are throwing numbers and people and, warm bodies at problems. And it is, in a lot of ways, fatty. Okay, I've seen it happen. I've seen a lot of people. I've seen 26 people on a call, videos off during the pandemic. Most of them just letting in, oxygen and letting out carbon dioxide. There's just no other, I'm being harsh over here, but that's the reality. And you can't blame them because you can't have 27 people, being cogent in one conversation. That'll be chaos. So there are 2 or 3 people who are doing the work. There's a lot of people who are just sitting around, and balls do drop, despite the fact that there's
so many people.
Right? So I think lack of accountability, all of that, these things automatically happen when systems become cumbersome,
too big,
unwieldy, right? And I think that is something that clients feel, at least I speak purely for what we've done at Fundamental. When they come to you, they're getting the right kind of engagement from the people who they think can actually solve for it, right? So everybody who's on a call or in a room is actually punching above their weight. And that, I think, makes a difference.
Arun, it's interesting because fundamentally, your company was started very differently from what would be a traditional ad agency, right? You had a different idea for where you wanted Spring to be. You were investing in businesses. Let's stay on the... You are investing in businesses. Let's stay... I don't want to talk as much about what the networks are, not getting right. But maybe just, tell me, the kind of people that are attracted to the kind of work that, you guys are putting out there.
See, in my view, I don't think there is that this type of client is attracted to this type of a company. I think in general in marketing, what's happened in my view is that the marketing ecosystem has also dramatically changed. The truth of the matter is that most CMOs stay in their job for 2 years. And that's the truth. And when they are there, they want to try and do the best possible work that they can on their brand. And then they say, okay, now who...
Award-winning work as well.
Some of them are seeking awards as well. And they are saying, okay, who is out there putting out some work, making a lot of new noise? And then they see some folks from here, some other folks who are not in this room right now. And then they say, oh yeah, these guys seem to be getting it right. And then they go and work with them. So I think that I don't think there is a certain type of client who works with a certain type of agency. I think there is like people who are doing good work get more work from clients. But going back to your question of fundamentally why I began Spring with my co-founders Raja and Vineet was because I think that the ecosystem of building brands is broken. I don't think people are building brands anymore. People are just writing fantastic ads, and then some other people are writing fantastic ads for the same brand, and then some other people are writing fantastic ads for the same brand, and all kinds of stuff going on. But in the good old way, if you have to build brands, then you have to work deeply with brands for many years. Brand building is a very long-term, it's a long-term, slightly boring task, which I have done over many years. And I feel that's the reason why we set up what we set up, saying, okay, if we have to build brands, why don't we put our money where our mouth is? We actually invest in the companies, put our skin in the game, and stay the course with them, and see what we can put out. So that's fundamentally where I feel this brand building versus doing current relevant great work is the toggle that's going on.
How painful is it today to find and stick with a brand and work on it? And what Arun mentioned about brand building versus giving that viral hit, or, you know, I mean, you have all these other new agencies coming up, very specifically doing one thing like meme marketing, for instance. So how do you do that? How do you stay the course long-term brand building versus, you know?
So two parts to it. There is a part of what Arun said, which I 100% agree with. There is a part of it which I may have some disagreement on. I think number one, there is a fair amount of gumption, a fair amount of judgment on the other side as well, which is on the client side, that they can, I mean, they have all the data, they have, you know, the way the brand has performed with certain kind of campaigns, not done very well with a certain other kind of campaigns. What is the kind of narrative that should be taken forward? There is a fair amount of judgment that exists on the other side as well. And they can possibly bring about teams or agencies who can come in, plug in to a certain part of that narrative, which this agency can take forward or this team can take forward. So that part is the place where I would disagree. Brands cannot be done, built by just one little viral hit. Lot of buzz will only lead to white noise, right? So it will not build a cogent trajectory or a cogent narrative. But I think there is a fair amount of knowledge and judgment which exists out there. We as an agency, we are split roughly half and half between, more than half and half in favor of retainer kind of clients. There are still many number of people who do want, right, that there is a agency who should be the keeper of the brand's voice, brand's knowledge and all of that, and keep on building on it in a way that it is cohesive. We have no problems doing the one-hit wonders also every once in a while. They bring a lot of joy about, right? So while 100% agree that a part of it could be boring, but it needs to be done. Brands are not built by doing 20 things in 20 different months and all that. You take a narrative and stay the course, right? But doing the little projects and all of that does also bring a lot about joy in the agency. It becomes magnetic out there in the market. It becomes magnetic for the talent. So I have like zero issues doing the little item numbers also.
I like that, the item numbers. PG, thoughts on item numbers?
I think my take on this is, I'm flattering myself, but very much like Bumrah's. You just don't think about the batsman. Think about what you want to do. Focus on your skills. Focus on your employees, your talent. What are the policies you're having internally as an agency to make sure that a client is always getting the best, most motivated version of the team. I think that is, the trouble is I think we've unfortunately done a very, very good job at being fake with clients, you know, just telling them what they want to hear. Right? Okay. And I think we all, and people can slightly see through the kind of stuff that the leadership says and what's on a creds deck, etc. And like what Pallavi mentioned, like the 27 people who are video off don't care about what was sold, you know, within the room amongst the leadership. They're the ones who are actually working, right? So we kind of felt like there is a huge redesign of this employer-employee equation that needs to happen in advertising anyway. The reason we're called talented is also, I mean, no points for guessing. That's kind of what we feel is most important to us. The trickle-down effect of a workforce that has, most of the promise that we make to anyone who's part of Talented is simple. You will get an opportunity to do very diverse work while being credited very fairly, being paid as per market rate without burning out. This is the offer, this is the promise. And I think everyone and as long as we're able to meet these very sensible expectations of creative people today, we don't need to think too much about, how exactly is the client going to benefit and what does the client want. No, you're putting the best people out there, then they'll take over and do a lot more of the heavy lifting than one would expect. What that kind of an approach has led to is one where, I'll take the Britannia example, like you said. We're very, very, very happy with being perceived in different ways by different clients basis whatever our scope is for them. We work on projects, we work on retainers. My co-founder personally, and I tend to agree with him, I think we've gotten generally used to the retainer model overall. There is this little comfort from a P&L standpoint, 12 months ahead I can see what to do, etc. But having a little bit of if you were to have a bias towards razor sharp margins on each product, on each project, and looking at things from a case-by-case basis to be like, okay, cool, we're here to do this job, let's do this job really, really well and move on. We've found terrific value in that. In fact, the joke is internally we call projects as pre-tainers because 75-80% of our...
Yeah, that is a good one,
nice.
Pre-tainers.
75-80% of clients who engage with us on a project basis tend to come back.
Yeah.
Right, 3-6 months down the line, whatever it is. So it's only been 3 years so far, but we found very encouraging success in this kind of a model.
Pre-tainers. Pallavi, it's interesting because when I speak to some of the current network agency heads, this project thing and these constant pitches.
They need to work harder. Yeah, that's why they're scared. Hand to heart, that's all it's about.
Yeah.
I can speak on behalf of my business heads. They have to be intellectually sharp week on week, month on month, because they go about, they're not looking, okay, 12 months down the line, okay, I've had one negotiation, I will do another negotiation this time next year. No, these guys they have an eye on the ball. So if it is genuinely working harder, and yeah, that can be scary for a lot of people. Yeah.
Scary, Pallavi, scary for a lot of people, but as an independent, that kind of freedom that comes with working on projects. Give me your take on it. And there are certain bad practices, of course. There are people calling for pitches just, to get the best rate, the best this, the best that, and just cost cutting and all of that. How do you hold your own in that case, and just make sure that you are not being shortchanged? Undercutting, of course, major issue for everybody, I guess. It's like a race to the bottom. So how do you hold your own?
Nice. Race to the bottom is nice. I'll tell you what we do, and I think a lot of people here will agree. One of the biggest benefits of being independent is that you get to say no. If you're not exercising that benefit, then there's absolutely no reason why you should have struck out on your own anyway. I think it's very important that everybody knows why they struck out. Like I said, first there was a threshold. Then it's not just, acha, try karte hain, let's see. You have to have a reason for having started out, because you know that you're bringing something to the table that you think others will not do as well as you, right? If you're sure of that. So if you're sure of the value you are bringing to the table and are able to communicate that to a client and then demonstrate it through the work that you're doing, right? I don't see a reason why you should be afraid. And if clients cannot see that, like we don't work without a pitch fee. When somebody comes in saying, hi, if they're flying a kite, then they'll have to take it elsewhere, right? Because, and I'm sure there's plenty of takers, that's the reality. It is a buyer's market, unfortunately, in today's day and age, and there's fragmentation galore. So everyone's willing to dance on a table, right, at zero cost. And that's unfortunate, but then that's the kind of return you're going to get. Right? And as a client, maybe you won't see that, but maybe you will, right? as an indie, you can only build a body of work, build cases, right? And show to the person sitting across the table, this is what I'm good for, this is what I do, this is what it'll cost you. If that doesn't work, there will be something else, right? So I think the biggest thing is that you don't, of course there's uncertainty, you don't have your sweet paycheck coming in, but there's also the thing of, hey, I'm not feeding an empire and I'm in no rush to turn into one, right? So you get to cherry pick. If you're good at your job, you get to cherry pick. I believe that. I have no reason to not believe that in the 1 year, 8 months that we've been active. So let's see. Let's see how it unfolds. But
so saying no is important.
Absolutely.
How many clients have you guys turned down, or or just
80 to 90% of all incoming leads. 80% of the incoming leads. Yeah. Easily.
Same.
Because it's going to be, what they're in it for. There is enough of stuff floating around right now, which is like, acha, try this. Acha, we were thinking just a small approach, an approach. What is an approach, friend? Hanji? There is no such thing, right? Yeah, define it. Very nebulous, right? So it's just a matter of, you also develop a nose for it. Nobody comes into it knowing shit from sugar, right? I mean, you figure it out as you go along. You develop an instinct for this person is on a fishing expedition. And you play your cards accordingly.
Yeah.
I think it's also become, even within the marketing fraternity, right? It's never I know we talk about it in this full industry type thing that it's all agencies and all clients. It's mostly like we're all trying to find soulmate energy. Like we all know that there are exceptions in the marketing side as well. Great marketing talent is rare, just like great agency talent is rare, so to speak. And
I don't know which one is rarer.
But she's right. Like the signs are very clear now. It's not like there is new vocabulary in place to kind of hide the fishing of the ideas and all those bad practices. Special place in hell for those who still think that should be the status quo.
Absolutely. That's all the time we have today, unfortunately. This could go on for a lot longer. We were just warming up, but thank you so much. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Delshad.